How many hours a week do you get to play games? 10? 5? Maybe you only get an hour or two a week to play a game you've been trying to get through for months. As an unemployed adult, I am unfortunately fortunate to get more time than most to play games. And when I'm not wasting that time playing roguelites, MMOs, or free-to-play games, I like to play single-player games. Everything from shooters, RPGs, racing games, anything I can get my grubby little mitts into. Games are great. It's like playing a book, and I love books. But unlike a book, I get to be in the world and explore for myself. I get to go to the mountains I see, go into the caves and dungeons. I get to live in the world as my character, be friends with their friends, go through the hardships they go through. But eventually I get bored and take a break. I got my fill of exploring and taking it slow, and I say, I'll take a break for now and come back in a couple days. Then those couple days turn into a week. A week turns into a month, and then I forget about it for a long time, and a lot of the time I just put the game down for good. But what is making me get bored of these games? Am I just playing too much of them in a short amount of time, getting burnt out? Does the game suddenly change, making the gameplay stale or too grindy? Or are games just getting too freaking long? Just by looking at the percentage of players that never actually see the end credits for games on achievement lists like Steam and Xbox, because that's what I have and it's easy to access this information and I'm lazy. You see that hardly any games have half the players get to the end. It's a big reason why the first couple hours of a game are typically the best, because it's the only part of the game a lot of people are going to experience, so you want to leave a positive memory on those people. But then that leads to the question, if the memory or experience is positive, then why do people stop playing? One of my best friends recently got into the Metal Gear series for the first time ever, and I also have never played them before, so I figured why not give it a try so we can talk about it together. And the first game holds up extremely well. The controls are tight, the story is hilarious.
So there's something you like about me, huh?
Yeah, you've got a great butt.
It's like one of my Japanese animes.
Greg Fox.
A name from long ago. It sounds better than Deep Throat.
And it's all around a super fun and enjoyable game. Until this guy. Psycho Mantis is without a doubt the worst boss I have ever done in a game, and was the reason I quit Metal Gear Solid and stopped playing the series. Hello everyone, Editor Rusty here, coming in with a bit of a tangent. So out of spite for this boss, I decided to re-download the game and try to beat it, and I did it! So I wanted to just quickly give some thoughts on it, because it's still a huge quitting point for many people, including myself before. And if I wasn't making this video, I never would have picked up the game again, so I figured it was a good reason to talk about it. This fight, playing the game completely blind like how I enjoy playing games, requires you to call up your commander multiple times in the fight, go through the dialogue until he's repeating himself, then lose the fight. Then you go into the fight a second time, and you can call your commander and he'll give you new information for destroying the statues to fight Psycho Mantis without changing your controller ports. This is terrible. Any fight that requires you to lose to be able to beat a boss is a decision that shouldn't be made lightly. It's to this day one of the worst things FromSoft did in Dark Souls 1. The first time you see Seath the Scaleless, you have to die to him. And this can arguably be worse than the Psycho Mantis fight, because if you happen to get cursed by him, you now have to figure out how to deal with a whole new mechanic that reduces your maximum HP, and I'm sure it has caused many folks to quit the game. To finish my thoughts on Metal Gear Solid, and I'll probably repeat myself later in the video, the game is very fun, and I recommend people try it out if it looks enjoyable. Just play it with a walkthrough and don't expect it to be well designed at times. And this is when the game stopped being fun for me. Metal Gear Solid, that is. Dark Souls was a bit of a mini rant. It got confusing, it started to feel like homework to figure out how to beat this boss, so I gave up. This is the best example of a boss that made me fully quit a game. I feel this is the most common reason for players quitting games. You get to a part where the game requires more than you're willing to give, so you stop playing. And I do love a challenge in a game. I'm a hot e-boy gamer guy who games with gamer glue, but this isn't a challenge. This is bad. Or, I'm bad, but I'm not willing to address that right now. Now, determining what is and isn't a quitting point isn't impossible. Developers aren't stupid. They know when a player won't enjoy the choice they make and they will put down the game. But it's a matter of if the decision is worth losing players for the creative vision. The area of Blighttown in Dark Souls 1 acts as a sort of great filter. It is highly regarded as one of the worst areas in the franchise, and is many people's breaking point for the game, where they just give up on playing. Just to get to it without using an item at the start of the game, you have to get through 2 whole areas with bosses at the end of them. Then you gain access to Blighttown proper. An area full of off-screen enemies that shoot toxin, an advanced form of poison darts at you, where swarms of lizard fish poop people are assaulting you with fire-breathing dogs. It's a descent into the depths of the world, where the discarded waste gathers, poisoning the land, and what life does live there is diseased and broken. And the gameplay sucks because it's meant to suck. You're almost constantly getting shot and poisoned and pushed and falling off the rafters. But I hear you say artist intent doesn't make up for players wanting to quit your game, and I agree, but I don't. But I kinda do. It's confusing. Games are bought and played for enjoyment. It's a hobby, and some people, like myself, have dumb brain and want the stress that areas like Blighttown give you. And I didn't mind my first time at Seat the Scaleless, where I did die and got cursed. I had to explore the world and find the item to get rid of it, but that was enjoyable for me. But when I was faced with a boss that used fourth wall breaking mechanics and a comm system that I have to repeatedly use, then die to a boss to be able to kill him, I gave up. It felt like the game was punishing me for trying other ways to beat the boss, like setting up claymores, trying to lead Psycho Mantis into a trap, or outsmarting him with systems I had at my disposal, instead of, no, do it this way and then shoot him until he acquires death. And I know many people love this game and series, but I didn't play it when it came out, so I can only talk about how it felt for me on a blind playthrough in the current year. But upon coming back to playing it, I did enjoy my time with it, and I think others should give it a try if it interests them. Just use a walkthrough because it's not clear on what you're supposed to do, ever. These last 2 games we've talked about have fairly clear points where players stop enjoying the game. Dark Souls alone is a game where people have quit at every section of it. But what about games that offer more freedom to the player in a sandbox environment? Along with playing games that have been stressing me out, I've also been playing games to de-stress. Recently, I got into Stardew Valley for the first time in ever. I've owned the game for a couple years, but never really finished a full year of it, so I wanted to invest some time into the game. The beginning of the game is really repetitive. It has you doing monotonous day-to-day tasks with not a lot else to do, because a lot of the systems haven't fully opened up to you yet. But I stuck through it, I finished my whole first year of in-game time, and I have hardly played since. Stardew Valley is a game where there's so much content in the game, and none of it matters because the only goals in the game are what I make for myself. And I think that my goals in the game are just done for now. Sure, there's the in-game dungeons like the Skull Caverns, I can finish the community center, and expand my farm more, but it just doesn't appeal to me. I stopped enjoying the day-to-day grind that the first year had. I think there's a similar thing to be said for Minecraft and Terraria as well. There's so much content in both games, but the lack of direction makes it feel overwhelming for players that are getting into it. And I enjoy having the freedom to do what I want in a game. For me, the perfect amount of freedom a game has ever offered me has been in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. There's a good amount of freedom each game has to let me do things the way I want to do them, as well as giving me enough direction by constantly sprinkling shrines and side quests and Korok seeds and wells all over the map. All these little micro doses of content are what keep me having fun and exploring the world. Now, I can only speak for myself on this, but when I do quit a game, I typically feel bad about it for a while after. I see the game collecting dust in my Steam library and think, I should finish that, and I know there's a good chance I won't. But there's this obligation in my mind to think about it, so I keep it downloaded, and I keep looking at it, and it keeps making me feel bad. And I don't like to feel bad, so I wanted to figure something out. And that takes us back to Metal Gear Solid 1 and why I unquit it. So what made me unquit MGS? Well, firstly, I wanted to make a video on when games stopped being fun or when I quit them. And whether it was me getting more cynical or critical about them, or maybe I just felt I got what I needed from a game before it finished telling its story. But in the case of Metal Gear Solid 1, it's cause it pissed me off. But I started to think about the whys of why I quit it, and why I started playing it in the first place. Cause yes, it was to talk about a popular game with a friend, but it was also to experience a game for myself. And as I've gotten older, I've noticed I play games more now to beat them rather than to have a fun experience. And as corny as it may sound to some people, games are meant to be experiences in the same way any art form is. The difference is games are goal-oriented, whether the goal is getting a PB on a level, hitting the next story beat, or building a castle out of TNT. All games will eventually stop being fun for you, and you're gonna stop playing them. But that's okay. It's a hobby for enjoyment, and if you play a game for 30 minutes and never touch it again, that's fine. The game stops being fun for you when it stops giving you goals you're interested in. But if you're like me and you find yourself looking at your backlog or unfinished games list with melancholy, then look at your backlog or unfinished games list and take them down one by one and ask yourself, why did I stop playing this? What would I do if I downloaded it again? And does it still interest me or not? This video is getting a bit tangenty, so I'll end it here. I hope this video encourages you to look at some games you never finished, possibly pick them back up, or at least think about why you quit them and why you never finished them. But if you liked the video, like it, tell me a game you stopped playing that you stopped having fun with in the comments, or just yell at me and tell me I'm wrong as usual. Enjoy your day and bye-bye!